everybody, I'm Sarah and I'm a recorder player. YouTube channel Answer in Progress has made a video all about the recorder. You know that I had to review it. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Sarah and I'm a professional recorder player. You will find me travelling the globe performing concerts on my instruments as well as being a recorder professor. But there's one thing I love more than anything else in the world, and that is bringing new people into the recorder fold. In this video, Sabrina of Answer in Progress is going to rediscover her childhood recorder. Let's see how she gets on. The recorder has had high-profile mentions in the past, some where we have been taken seriously, and others not so much. So my main question here is, are we going to be respected? Let's get into it.
I have had this recorder for 14 years. There's just something I don't get about reading music and moving my fingers and breathing.
It is true, playing a musical instrument is one of the most complex things that you can do with your brain.
To finally figure this instrument out, I'm diving into the surprisingly vast history of the recorder, learning from a professional recorder musician, and finally earning my black belt in recorder karate.
Okay, I've got to stop here. So many thoughts already. I'm seeing two things that make me very excited. First, the book, The Recorder by David Lasocki. That is a serious book. I am glad that some research has gone into this. And also hiring in Alison Melville. She is an amazing recorder player. These are two big tick marks in my book. I'm feeling optimistic about this video. I do want to discuss briefly the comment
why we were forced to learn something that sounds so awful in school.
The recorder is often slated as sounding awful when the only experience we have of it is beginners. The next step in thinking should be, is it the recorder instrument that sounds awful, or is it just that we don't know how to play it yet? I hope this video addresses this question. Why do we write off this instrument in this way? After all, you wouldn't judge an athlete by a baby learning to take its first steps. You wouldn't judge a scientist by children learning to count. Why do the same for a musical instrument? And as a YouTuber, I know the answer, and that is it's important to make these videos relatable. Lots of us can identify with starting a musical instrument for the first time and not feeling confident. So in the interests of relatability and drawing in a wider audience to the spider web of recorder discovery, that was a weird sentence. Yeah, I'm going to condone it. Let's continue.
I have no idea if I washed this the last time I used it. It's been over 10 years. So let's start with that.
So looking at this instrument, it's an Angel model, which isn't one that I'm really familiar with, but it looks to be in good shape. Apart from the bite marks, it has a curved winway and it's in Baroque finger setting. So tick tick, by having a good instrument, you're already off to much more of a good start.
We are starting off with a classic. Hot cross buns.
One that sound like a choo-choo train. This is not gonna go well.
I'm gonna jump in. It is going to go well, but to start a musical instrument, you need to have essential information about the recorder. So I've seen Sabrina so far take the instrument, and there are two things as a teacher I'm picking up on. One is a bit of tension here in the embouchure. This rather than relaxed. And the other, we get the squeaking when we don't close the holes properly. So you need someone to tell you that. That's why when we get a class of kids learning the instrument for the first time with a teacher who doesn't know how to play the recorder, it's always going to stay at that really basic, terrible sounding level because you need this information. It's just like if you gave somebody a bike who had never seen a bicycle before, they would get on, fall straight off and say, this thing is broken.
Do you breathe in between notes? It was humbling.
Do you breathe in between notes? No! So I'm seeing a montage here of Sabrina practicing as she goes through the week, and I love this so much. As I watch, I see her relaxing into it. I hear a lot of kind of musicality.
I'm going to get the hang of this. Improvements! Purple belt complete! Let's go!
Basically, I see someone blossoming. Here, I can just feel the joy like bursting off her. I get that same joy now as a professional when I'm working on a new piece. I see it in my own students when they're learning things. That joy of learning something, creating, getting more self-confident and coming up against something that's difficult, but then overcoming it. There's no feeling like it. And I love that that is so prominent in this video.
This is just reminding me that when I was a kid, there was so much emphasis on playing and creating music. But now, as an adult, I mainly just consume it. And that is a very different experience.
Wait. As a child, we're used to creating music, but as an adult, we mainly consume it. Ooh. And you know what brings us joy? Creating. You know what can make us feel bleak? Mindless consumption. Sabrina, I think you've hit on something really important here. Then Sabrina goes to play to her friend, and I see a lot of like self-consciousness and vulnerability. I just think that's beautiful. And we have some light-hearted recorder mockery. I don't mind. I mean, I kind of mock the recorder all the time too. It makes me think, are we really mocking the recorder, or are we mocking ourselves? Are we feeling self-conscious and taking it out on something external? And is it really mockery, or is it a kind of gentle childhood nostalgia? If you want to leave in the comments, no, I'm just mocking the recorder, I will understand.
Oh.
I said, I've never seen a real recorder musician before.
I think it's a real musical instrument.
This is the crux of why we don't take the recorder seriously. You're not shown an example of what it can be. How can you ever know? So remember earlier when I asked you, why do we judge the first steps of a musical instrument much more harshly than we do in other skills and professions? It's because we don't have the example of what it can be. Now, what I would love to happen in this video would be like 20 minutes of clips of professionals, soloists playing in front of orchestras, people performing in theatres and in pop bands and playing improvised solos. I would love to see legends like Frans Bruggen and Michele Petri, contemporary superstars like Lucy Horsch and Eric Bosgraaf, even Team Recorder. Hi, fellow YouTubers. But as a YouTuber, I can tell you why that isn't included in that way in this video. The copyright algorithm. As a YouTuber, if you use recordings, in particular audio recordings of other people's music, you risk having your video flagged, demonetized, and even taken down. And when YouTubing is your job, you cannot risk that. So I understand why we don't have like 10 minutes of examples now.
And it turns out the story is way weirder than most of Europe.
I've never been happier than I'm happier right now. That is a bit of an overstatement. I was probably happier like the day my daughter was born. Whereas like a D-list video would stop here and just say, haha, the recorder's silly, Sabrina does something, oh my god, I love you. She heads off to the library and researches this properly. I have almost never seen this happen. I'm like so touched. And hey, we do have a performer here. Hi, Murd Steger. He's fantastic. What follows here in the video is a fantastic, concise, deep dive into the history of the recorder and how it became like a staple of school music. I'm really blown away by this. Shit, I don't think I ever explained it that well, and it's my job. I do wish I had a graphics budget though. On Team Recorder, I'm just like holding things up, like, look at this. I'm seeing some really important points mentioned, like why we have Yamaha recorders. If you're a beginner, I always recommend the Yamaha plastic instruments. There's a couple of tiny context things that I wish were named. For example, Sabrina says the recorders in England were way too expensive, whereas in Germany they were cheaper. The reason they were expensive was because they're handmade. The skills and the craftsmanship needed to make a recorder, that takes a lifetime to learn. We tend to think of complexity in woodwind instruments in terms of key work. The recorder tends to not have keys. That means that all of the physics needed to create this beautifully tuned and uniform instrument needs to happen internally. That's hard.
But
Anyway, you weren't forced to learn the recorder in school because it was cheap. It was cheap because people throughout history recognized this simple instrument's potential to exploit the joy that comes with making music together.
Wow. It became cheap because we recognised its potential and we made accessible versions that people could use. That is an important distinction, and I also love that she ends the quote by saying the joy of making music together, which if you know me will know that's my favourite thing in the world. Yes! We not only have practice, we not only have an open mind, we not only have research, but we have a lesson with a professional. Thank you! This is Alison Melville, recorder player, historical flute player. Alison and I know each other online, though we've not yet met each other in real life, but I'm so happy to have her here as an ambassador.
Any professional most of the time is playing a wooden one.
Yes, thank you, Alison, for making the important point that you need to have a good quality instrument. For example, this one that I've been showing you is a handmade wooden boxwood recorder. The plastic recorder's overtones aren't quite so pleasant. The tone is a little bit narrower and like this. Here we get some different recorder sizes. That's really important to show. I could go even further and show you the tiny Keurenplein and the Sopranino. And I love that they also show the bass recorder. Here we go. But we also have recorders in different models. This is an earlier Renaissance recorder. This is a bit more advanced, but I even have my medieval double recorder. See this, but I've just spent like 15 minutes playing different recorders. Back to the video. Sabrina goes on to play for Alison, so let's hear how she's sounding. I am hearing so much improvement in 1 week. I'm hearing a really musical feel, great rhythm, keeping to the beat, and there is potential for a really nice sound there. Then I move on to the things that I think could be improved. One is going to be tonguing, articulation. If you don't start the notes with your tongue, you don't give yourself a chance to develop a good sound, and you'll always have that elementary school. It's exactly like speaking. Try introducing yourself without using your tongue. That is the difference. And the second is posture. What we want to avoid is a tense embouchure and making yourself small. We want to go for relaxed and proud. And of course, Alison goes through and names all of these points. I think she's such a wonderful teacher.
I know it sounds silly, but after a decade of feeling ashamed about my musical incompetence, Alison patiently teaching me was incredibly freeing. It made me want to try one more time. Growing up can be so serious and lonely, but there's something about making music together, even bad music, that makes it feel a little bit better.
I'm like genuinely emotional. This was so beautiful. Growing up can feel lonely. Being an adult can feel lonely. And if there's one thing that makes it better, it's making music together. Sabrina's conclusion is so important. And I want to pick up on one thing she said. That was a decade of musical incompetence. Sabrina, you were not musically incompetent. It's not incompetence. It's simply access to information. We saw in this video how in a short lesson, a student blossomed. And not only in terms of playing Ode to Joy better, but in terms of self-confidence. So that is what we need. We need the teachers who can go out and teach it. I have never met a child who is unmusical, who is incapable. And I don't know why the recorder has become this punching bag for that. It's like a kind of universal joke. And I don't mind so much because I think it's important to be able to laugh at yourself a bit, but I do mind when it stands in the way of people having this experience of rediscovering the joy of being creative and of learning, because that is so important. I am so happy to conclude in this way. I love this video. I would go so far as to say I think Sabrina is the perfect student, not in the sense of, wow, let's book a CD recording next week, but she went into it with an open mind, dedication to practice, motivation to keep going, researching it, asking for help, taking on feedback, and all with a sense of humour. You don't have to be holy about it, like, the recorder is the best. I mean, I do that. But being able to keep this with a sense of humour and fun is also so important, because that is what making music is about. Joy and fun. I want you to like doing it. And if you found this video through Answer in Progress, you know nothing about the recorder, welcome to Team Recorder. I've got like 400 videos about this instrument. I love teaching about it, and I hope to give you a little bit of a way in too. So what a wonderful conclusion to come to. The joy of making music. Let's sign off. As always, you can subscribe to Team Recorder by clicking on my face down here. We're supported by Patreon. If you'd like to support the channel, click over here and here's some of the videos. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye!